Hello, everyone, and welcome to November session of Ask Me, October session of Ask Me Anything. My name is Rodiat Muslon, and I'm co-chair of the SEG Women's Network student community. So, welcome to Ask Me Anything today with Adriana Citlali Ramírez. Thank you so much for joining us, Adriana.
My pleasure.
Um, please allow me to read about Adriana. Adriana Citlali Ramirez is a Mexican citizen who has a PhD in physics. She is the TDS Chief Geophysicist and Technology Advisor. Adriana has authored 4 patents and more than 60 technical publications. As a volunteer, Dr. Ramirez has served the Society of Exploration Geophysicists, the European Association of Geoscientists and Engineers, Norwegian Petroleum Society, and the SEG Advance Modeling Corporation in several roles. The roles have included serving as chair of technical and advisory committees, organizing workshops and conferences, and serving on the board of directors. Outside science and the energy industry, Adriana focuses on visual artists and creative writing. Thank you very much, Adriana. That's such an interesting profile.
Thank you.
Do you have any other thing to add to what I've said about you?
Oh, to add, um, no, I'm just a person who enjoys what she does. I mean, I'm very passionate about the different things that I do, and I think part of my career path has been the fact that I enjoy what I do, even though there's challenges and every now and then barriers that you just have to cross. But in general, it's a fun world.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's move straight to the questions. So if you have any questions, please type into the comment section. So I'm going to start with the questions I have from my side. So the first question is that we read about you. I read about you, and I was really surprised. I saw that your dad wanted you to go into literature, but you studied physics, and then you went to study geophysics later in graduate school. Can you elaborate on why you chose to become a geoscientist?
Well, actually, I never studied geosciences, and yeah, my father did support my interest in literature and arts because he had an interest himself. So we shared that interest, and we learned from each other. But he never not supported any of my choices. He was actually very happy with whatever I chose to be, and that was one of the luxuries that I always had. That I could be whatever I wanted to be, and nobody told me I couldn't. I chose physics because I was actually in between going to literature and physics. I had a very hard time, and my first semester I went to literature in undergrad, and I also did a creative writing degree as an extra thing in that time. And it almost won because it was such a big passion, but I missed physics surprisingly. I really missed learning. I, I felt through physics I was starting to learn how I could observe the world and interpret it in a different way with something a little bit more concrete. And then as you start reading more things, I remember I was reading, a lot of people probably have done that, Stephen Hawking's Brief History of Time. And I was like, I mean, there's so much that you can define and you can understand, but there's a limit to that understanding, and that becomes something more like philosophy. And it just it joins together with creativity and the questions that you cannot answer in philosophy, and the creativity that you have in the art. So for me, it was very similar. But I thought I didn't. Well, when I did that creative writing degree, I met a lot of writers actually they were taking the same diploma. They were writing for magazines. One person had a couple of books published in editorials and everything. And I thought they were writers, but they said they were going to this creative writing degree because they never had the chance to study it. But for me, what it said is you can become an artist if you work hard, if you have some talent, even if you don't go into full formal education. On the other hand, I started realizing that if I really truly wanted to understand physics, which is an impossible task because every day there's new discoveries and new development, but if I truly wanted to touch that understanding, I needed to be guided. I was not smart enough to take I didn't think I was smart enough in math to take all the math and truly understand it, to understand the physics that follows it. So I decided to go to physics, but I always took creative classes on the side. I took a lot of the classes that corresponded to the literature degree, and I took external classes on painting. And I just continued, did my master's and my PhD in physics. In my PhD, I met Arthur Wegline, Dr. Arthur Wegline, who is the director of the Mission-Oriented Seismic Research Program at the University of Houston. And he had worked 30 years in the oil and gas industry. He's extremely well known and well recognized, and he had 23 sponsors from the industry. And he was doing equations that I recognized. It was Rings theorem. It was a lot of equations similar to optics that I had studied first or before that. And he had an application that needed these equations, which is the oil and gas industry. And he was using a lot of scattering theory, the mathematics of scattering theory translated into applicable equations and methods in the oil and gas industry. So that attracted me a lot. And I started working with him. And that's how I eventually came to work at the industry and eventually became a geophysicist.
Thank you, Adriana, for sharing that. It's such an interesting journey. So I was curious, how did you strike a balance doing that literature and still maintaining good academic standard while studying?
Oh, while studying, I studied as a kid. I have always had I think it's just I am interested in something, and I don't know. I'm not very good at stopping at just being interested. I just keep going, but it doesn't distract. It just adds to my life. I mean, to this day, I right now I'm not doing that much amount of literature. I do a lot more painting these days, and I feel it also as an escape. Sometimes it's also almost like a meditation. You have nowadays in particular, we have 1,000 emails coming every minute, and you have text messages and a lot of just little pieces of information, and your attention is from one meeting to another, just changing subjects and trying to contribute, making a contribution, right? And then when I do something creative like writing or painting or even photography, editing photography, for example, but especially writing and painting, I don't I disconnect from the world. It's just me and that creation that I don't even know what it's gonna become, because it just becomes something. It just starts flowing, and I just let it go and let it take me to wherever that creative moment is gonna take me. And then I stop and look at it, and then I start thinking about what happened. So for me, it's part of my life. It has always been. I've been in writing. I started writing as a kid, and I used to write every day, every night before I went to sleep. And that's also part of what happens, right? That it becomes almost like a habit, and it becomes part of your life. But I never questioned the need to balance it towards in any way, because I enjoyed school as well, so it was okay. You're muted, Rodiad.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adriana, for answering that question. I said that's such a great personality. I haven't found somebody that loves to do science and artist and to do something artistic like that. It's such an interesting thing, and I think there's a connection between science and art also. So it's really great. So my next question is that, can you tell us about your blog, the Aberge and the Salamander? What was your motivation behind it?
Oh, my blog. I have two blogs. That's a blog in Spanish. El alebrije y la salamandra, and then I have another one in English that is called When Space is Silence. So El alebrije y la salamandra, the one that you mentioned about, I used to write mostly, well, for literature community. I have always belonged to a community of writers, and I would share with them, and we would improve each other's and all that. And and I was in the UK in 2000. 2010. Yeah, 11. And I have been living and working in the United States already for 8 years. And then I was here in the UK that year. And at some moment, I felt that my Spanish language was suffering, not because I forgot my own native language, but because I used to be able to come up with a lot of words and a lot of, for anything that I wanted to say, I had the right word and it was always there and I could use it immediately. And then after working and living and having 24 hours and even dreaming in English, because you are immersed in another language, I felt I was losing that speed of language. So I decided to challenge myself and write in Spanish. And I also started reading, every other book that I read is in Spanish. So I allowed maximum 2 books in English, and then the next one has to be in Spanish, because I love words, I love literature, and the need for me to have the right word is very important, to be able to get it in the moment that I need it and I want it. And writing is also a way of keeping that language. So in that blog, I write mostly essays of whatever, like short stories or essays of whatever is interesting. And quite often I went into topics about women, professional women, or in the workplace, and also about living abroad. And I actually made a tour in which I invited other people. Among others, there are some geoscientists that you might recognize, who wrote about their country as seen as an expat living in another country. So that's what that blog is about. The one in English is contemporary poetry.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us again, Adriana. I think it's something really good because you actually wanted to increase your speaking skills in Spanish, right?
I think, well, I want to maintain it. My writing,
Okay, to
my
maintain
language
it.
is my own language. I grew up in Spanish.
Oh, right. That's good. Thank you for sharing that with us. All right, so you are the chief geophysicist and technology advisor at TGF. So tell us how your day-to-day life is.
Oh, that's hard to say. Um, I'm overlooking I work on the business side. I'm in the business unit for the Eastern Hemisphere, and that starts covers the UK, Europe, AME, Africa, Middle East, and Asia Pacific. So anything besides the Americas is the Eastern Hemisphere in TGS. And I am overlooking mostly the technology part and advising the business side, of course. So my actual goal is to use technical expertise, business acumen, and intuition to provide a strategic and technological guidance to the Eastern Hemisphere business unit at the end of the day. What we do is we address data-related challenges and try to work to find solutions that will have the most positive impact on the decisions that our clients take on with that data. So when you provide data, any new data that you provide, the value of that data is that it actually changes something, that it has an effect. So if, for example, in reprocessing, if I am reprocessing some data set and I get a much nicer image, that's great. But if that image doesn't provide important information, preferably information that will help you de-risking, changing your opinion either in the right or the wrong direction, but that will have an effect in your decisions, then that reprocessing has very little or no value, and you spend a lot of money. So my job is to make sure that whatever our clients' needs are, that we work to satisfy the goals and to provide the quality that is needed, and is needed for value, not for the moment only. So besides that, I work in also in some other more strategic roles, and advising or working with the executives in the company. For example, sometimes for collaboration with other companies, new technology, implementation of new technology into our active projects, and of course, spokesperson quite often in conferences and forums and writing articles and things like that. So it's a very fluid role. And my team, I have a team working for me, and my team helps me in all these support functions towards the business. And they are in charge of the execution of projects. So they are the geophysical project managers that represent the business unit and our clients, and run the project and pretty much follow the whole execution until delivery.
Yeah, I love what you are doing because I am in love with seismic method also, and I'm also into machine learning. I just started my
Nice.
internship with Schlumberger, and I'm in the seismic processing department. And so you are someone that I really want to be like when I advance. So it's really nice. I'm so passionate about what you're doing. So
Oh, but
thank you
that's
for sharing
good.
that with us. Right. So I also wanted to ask you, in this seismic industry, what problem would you like to fix if you could?
Are you talking about the seismic industry, or are you talking the oil and gas industry? Is this a technical question, or is this a general question?
Yes, it's a technical question. Like, if there's something you could solve right now that could make, you know, data, reading data, or the imaging, what you do at TGS. Do you
Well,
get what I'm saying?
yeah, I mean, there's several problems that we can progress, right? So I I mean, absolutely solving a problem is great, but what keeps us with a job is the fact that problems are never fully solved, that everything can be improved, and the challenges that come sometimes are not foreseen, and sometimes were foreseen before, but the technology was not there, as it happens with some of the advanced technology that nowadays is normal, like RTM, full waveform inversion. Even 15 years ago, it was a challenge to implement them because the compute power was hard. Uh, it was not enough, and a lot of knowledge, understanding, and development had to happen. And these technologies were developed in the 80s. So for me, it's about that incremental improvement. There's some interesting things that are happening right now, like full waveform inversion, imaging with full waveform inversion, interpretable models that you can interpret and you can have the wells that next to each other, optimization of everything. And one of the challenges that we have is also it's not only about transferring our skills into the new energy solutions. That's relatively easy as long as this earth science related problems or geophysics related problems. Quite often it's about optimizing the solutions such that they fit within the regulatory framework if it exists. If it doesn't exist properly, or is being fine-tuned, like in CO2 or in deep sea mining, then it's about helping providing the information and really identifying what is the information that they need to progress and to regulate this area, and optimizing things in terms of economics, timelines, and data sizes, because our data sizes are just increasing and increasing. Our timelines are shortened, our budgets are quite shortened as well, as reduced. So all of this is an optimization, and for me that's the fun part, is is the fact that we always have something to do. Nothing is a finished job. And if we could spend an infinite amount of time and compute in a given data set, maybe we could do much better than we're doing in each one of our runs, but we don't have that luxury. So it's about really addressing the challenges that we have at hand, finding the best solution, and improving upon our existing solutions. For me, that's the fun part of where we are of our business. And of course, there's a lot of opportunities. You're working in machine learning, and it's a lot of opportunities there. And there's a lot of things that have been realized, and we have also been working with them. It's fun. And what I like about it is as well that you can incorporate them into other methods, and you can combine things, and you can progress together with the understanding and of the inner workings that comes from physics, and the power and the speed and the history that machine learning can gather into a single algorithm method.
Thank you, Adriana. So we should focus our capacity on the present challenge we are facing right now. Yeah, and
Not
I
only
think
the present, if you are in, especially you, that you are working in, I understand you're working more towards research. So the present challenge is what you have to solve today, right? but you're always looking at least one step ahead. You always have to look into what's next. But learn, solve this problem, and try to solve the problem for the purposes that it is, the challenges that it has, and the objectives. Make sure that you're working toward the objectives, and think about what's next. And actually, every time you go into challenge, you will find new ideas, and sometimes they solve another problem, not the one that you're solving. Just keep that idea, keep working on that. Plenty of opportunities.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Adriana. So the next question from my side is that what barriers did you find in your career as a person in general and also as a woman
Barriers.
or challenges?
Well, I mean, the barriers in the career. I would think that I did not experience that many barriers. In reality, I did not experience too many barriers, or almost none, coming into this industry. And especially in research, I was welcome. And as long as you produce, and as long as you deliver, and as long as you have ideas and you work well with others, you're gonna be fine. And throughout my career, I have had a lot of great opportunities and a lot of very good experiences. I think my only unfortunate experience is that at some moment in my career, I had to report sexual harassment in one of my past jobs, and that experience was lengthy and it was a hard process. And in that experience, you have to prove your integrity, because even though you're the victim, you have to still be questioned. It's a very tough process. And it was hard for me to reestablish myself into a normal work environment. And it just, even though there's also males that experience this situation, unfortunately, it's much more common for women. And it was also a little bit of breaking my heart, because I used to think that I was in the best industry in the world. And I realize now that, I mean, there's things that happen, and it happens in all industries, unfortunately. The world is becoming much better, and I am grateful in a wrong way, not a wrong way, in a good way, but it sounds strange, but I'm grateful that I had that experience, because I had the good fortune that I was already having a well-known name in the industry. I had opportunities, both internally and externally, to speak up, and I was able to be strong and to go through the process. And I decided that I was not going to be a victim, that you can choose to be that, and you are one, but then you can choose to be an activist. And I just decided to change things, and I decided that I was going to talk about it, and I was going to raise awareness, and I was going to help changing that, because, as I said, the world has improved a lot. 20 years before me, things were much worse, sorry. And what I hope is that it just improves faster and faster. We raise awareness, and we agree that diversity and rights are for everyone, right? And diversity is not a matter of fairness, actually. It's a matter of need, because diversity in all ways, not only women, males, uh, all kinds of sexual preferences, backgrounds, colors. In reality, it gives an advantage to the companies, because you have much more ideas, much more diversity of ideas, not only of persons and genders or colors. So for me, this has become an activist. The activist in me had to step up and to be there. But I think it was a good experience, and it also gave me a very good view of a lot of people that were there ready to support you. Again, male, women, any gender, a lot of people were there ready to support, and that was a very good experience. After all.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Wow. I think you said, I don't know, have you ever been disrespected at work? Maybe as a result of being a woman, because we are in the male dominated industry, and I think maybe you've had some such kind of instance that you were disrespected, or maybe something happened to you because of gender inequality or because you're a woman? Has something like that ever happened to you?
Besides what I presented, I just said, well, I mean, at occasions, yes. And yeah, again, it should not be that way all the time, but it does happen on occasions. It's about again, just focus on your work. Call it off if you can call something off. I mean, don't call off everything, of course, but it's about communication, raising awareness, and improving. And as we are moving upwards or we are getting more leadership roles, it's important to speak up and to also help providing a good environment. I have had as many good people, not as many, like 1,000 times more good people in this industry. I have encountered a lot of excellent mentors, friends, colleagues, and it's still, for me, it's still worth it. And I'm very happy that I'm in this industry. Barriers exist, and yes, I mean, sometimes it's obvious that the barrier is that maybe you look too young, maybe you are too young, maybe you are a woman. There's situations like that, and I wish they were not there. I wish that we had reached equality in a much more obvious and realistic way. But we are moving in that direction, and I think the new push with the United Nations, the Sustainable Development Goals that include gender equality, they include women and well, equality for everyone, are important, because there is a big push in the last years, I would say, at least the last 5 years, if not decade, towards ESG, more environmental, social, and governance. And the people part has been quite important, to the point that nowadays is being evaluated globally. And companies get points just for reporting the statistics. And then you get more points if you actually start improving and you start having some balance and reduce the pay gap and all these things. So it's becoming more and more visible. And the new generations, your new generation, your generation, and the new generations are really making a big difference, because you are not only expecting it, you are also demanding it. And I think that's the right way. I mean, we all need to do that.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Adriana. I have a question from one of the audience.
Yeah.
She says, with your literacy skills, how have you aided the geoscience community? That's the question.
You mean about literature, like writing skills?
Yes.
I don't know how much I have aided the science community, but I mean, I do of course write. At some moment, I was for 7 years I was part of the associate editors of Geophysics. I English is not my first language, but I have taken education as well on grammar, because I realized that the modern grammar, the punctuation is very different in English than in Spanish, and it really gave me a big headache when I was doing my PhD. So I actually took a course in this, and I like to use this to just try to write clear English. And when I have students or mentoring someone, I try to help them out to also develop these skills. But I think we are all helping each other with this. I guess what it has really helped me with, or I don't know if it's the literature part or it's just whatever, is I do think that I can communicate at different levels. I'm able to communicate at a technical level. I'm able to communicate at the executive level, and I have demonstrated that in the different roles that I have taken. And I can communicate with people outside my field. So that is important. The communication, whether it comes because you write, whether it comes because you are eloquent when you speak, or because you do listen carefully, or you train and educate yourself. It doesn't matter, but communication is very important in this industry. At the end of the day, everything is about people, and everything is about, in reality, it's about sales. Every time you're talking, you're presenting yourself, you're selling yourself. Every time you present your CV, you're selling yourself. You present an idea, you're selling yourself. You write a paper, you're selling your idea, your equations, your method. So it's about communication, and literature helps, reading helps.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. But the same person is asking if you accept African students for mentorship because she would love to be a mentee under you. She wants to be a mentee. She wants you to be a mentor.
Oh, that's really,
So,
really nice.
mhm.
Of course, I do accept people from all over the world, but I'm not in a in research anymore. In research, it was much easier for me to have internships. I'm now in the business side, so I don't necessarily have interns myself. But I can give you recommendations. I mean, there is a mentorship program, for example, that SEG started a few years ago, and it's free, and people volunteer the time, and you can get a mentor. If you cannot get it, I mean, you should apply there. I guarantee you. Reach out. I mean, if you go to a conference and if you want to talk to me, just reach out. I mean, if you see me or send me an email, we can try to meet and have a conversation. But come prepared. I'm not talking only with me, with whoever you're gonna talk. Be prepared. Think about what you want to do, not today, but in 5 years. What are your strengths? What you're struggling with, etc. Apply for internships. I think internships give you a great opportunity to not only learn, but to also test different companies and see whether it is a good match for you or not. And yeah, seek opportunities, network with people, volunteer in the society. We have great societies with tons of opportunities for volunteering. If you are you're in Africa, you said, I'm more involved with the Europe Regional Advisory Committee, for example, from SEG, where there's a student chapter that is really, really active. But there's other regional advisory committees that you can join, for example, the Africa Middle East, and is very well run, and it has a lot of people working there. There's also EAGE programs. You can always find ways to get to volunteer, and then work hard, speak up, don't be shy. Even if you're a student, speak up, learn from the others, listen more than what you speak when you're a student, but say things when you have something to say. Don't be shy, and then people will give you opportunities. You will find mentors that way. Internships right now for me is very hard because I don't have that role anymore and it's not my current role to hire interns or to have interns.
Thank you so much. I'm sure you've answered the question. So, just want to say this to everyone. There's a mentoring session by the SCG Women's Network on Mentoring 365. You can do that. Mentoring 365. I'm sure that's the one you're talking about, Adriana.
Yeah, that's yeah, I think it's AAPG and SCG, right? So
Yes,
that's
I
one
think
of
AGUs, and some other associations together.
yeah, correct. Yeah, that's one of them. But you don't even, I mean, do that. That's a very good program. But wherever you are, just talk to people, be curious, and I guarantee you, if you're curious, you're smart, and you work hard, mentors will just show up and then pay it back. Make sure that pay it forward the other way around. Make sure that as you move in your career, you also are actively mentoring other people and helping them out.
Yes, yes. Mentors choose you, you don't choose them. Yes.
But this
So,
program is quite good, and it's a volunteer basis with really very good people running it.
yeah. Thank you, Adriana. So, you've already mentioned that you've had a lot of mentors. Even now, maybe you have mentors. So, can you tell us how? Maybe just give us a scenario, something that really struck you. How did they impact your career? Maybe just one example. I know you have a lot of examples. You have a lot of mentors. You've done a lot of good things for you. But can you maybe give us an instance of what
Yeah, I mean,
mentorship has
I
done for
think
you?
in this industry, my first mentor is my PhD advisor, Arthur Wegline. He's excellent. He really spent time mentoring us on career, on communication, on so many skills. And his main, I will never forget because it's something I repeat 1,000 times. He said very early once, he said, look, you can be as smart as anyone or even smarter than anyone else, and that will take you somewhere. I mean, you will have a decent career, but what really matters is your integrity and your reputation. as long as you keep those two things, even if you're not that smart, will be fine. You will be successful. But if you lose any of those, you don't have a career. And it is true. I mean, even though it seems like a very big industry when you're a student and you go to the first conference and you don't know anyone, or you do know a lot because this is an industry where the people whose papers you're reading are alive and are presenting and are approachable, which is amazing. Coming from physics, where my main heroes were all dead, coming to geophysics was fantastic. That change. But you feel a bit lost. Like, I mean, I'm this little student in the middle of this world where everybody seems to know each other and to be super active. But everybody does know each other, and you very soon will be known by everyone, either by name, by reputation, by knowing another person, by a company affiliation. And eventually you just go to these conferences and you say hi to 1,000 people that you know well and you adore and respect. And then you realize how important it is to have a good reputation and your integrity. So never compromise that. And those are things that Arthur Wegline taught us. And it's really, really important. He taught so many other things, and I had great mentors throughout my career. It's more than I can count, not, or mention, but each one of them has made a big impact. Some of them were mentors in some roles, friends in others, etc. Some of them decided to be my mentors, and some of them even gave me opportunities without me even knowing that they were there. I learned about those years later, and I was able to thank them. But my internships, for example, each one of the mentors in those internships who gave me the project and all that, they spent time talking to me, like Hing Tang in Shell, Kjetil Hogstad in Statoil and Equinor, Ken Matson in BP, Simon Shaw in ConocoPhillips. They were amazing. They're still friends, and we still talk to each other, and are persons that if I seek their advice, they will always be there. And I admire and respect. So everywhere, I mean, anyone can be your mentor. Just keep the relationships and make sure that you also provide to that relationship, and as I said, to the next generation and your peers.
Thank you very much, Adriana. I've myself have had a lot of mentors, and they are so good to me. They've been so good to me, and you know, I can't even be. I can't imagine what I would have done without having mentors. Because what one thing about having mentors is that you you first of all you don't make the same mistake they've made, and they give you their advices. They give you a lot of insight. They see things before you do, and they can really, make some really good advice that's gonna, help you to advance your career. And for I just want to say I got my internship also through the person is not really my mentor, but it's through volunteering, and I'm still trying to make her my mentor and see how the relationship is gonna, I'm gonna foster that relationship, right? So I think it's really nice, and one way where we can get mentors is by volunteering. You don't just be a member of the society. Be proactive, do things right, and also give back, as Adriana have said. So thank you so much, Adriana,
No,
for
absolutely. And it
sharing that
seems
with us.
that you're doing just the right thing. Just make sure to maintain those relationships. And sometimes it's hard. We get busy and distracted or whatever, but make sure to maintain those relationships. They will be there for all your career. And I'm sure you will be very successful. You are already very successful.
Thank you, ma'am. So my next question is, um, how was your experience combining your professional and personal life, and how did you deal with difficulties? Is this your family, combining with work, your volunteering roles, leadership, you're everywhere, you're EAGE, SP, SEG, the Norwegian Society. How are you able to combine that with your work and family?
Well, I don't know. I have been fortunate. And it has not been difficult. I don't think you need to compromise one thing over the other. I mean, there are times in your life in which you need to step back and in any direction. And there's times in your life when your family has to be much more important than yourself, your own health, mental or physical. It doesn't really matter which kind of health, or your family, your home country. But I mean, we have great technology nowadays. And depending on the type of roles, also there's certain flexibility as well. As long as you deliver, you will always have flexibility. As long as you deliver, you will have trust, and there will be opportunities and flexibility. And a lot of the volunteer work that I do, even though it's volunteer, it actually reflects back in my companies, and it helps me also in my work, and it helps me sometimes also in my private life as well, because it's networking, is relationships, is friendships, is people are advising you and there for you, and you laugh with them sometimes at the middle of a meeting. So I have never had a problem like that. But there are times in which you become very busy. Like, for example, last year when I was uh, the chair of the board of directors of SEAM, it was a fantastic experience. I will not have had it. It was a great experience. It really challenged me. It's the first time I had to deal with certain things, like to actually be truly on governance. I mean, not the first time. I was there for some time, but I was in charge of the board, right? And it was a lot of work. And at the same time, I my role changed slightly and expanded here into yes. And then in November, October, November, I moved from Norway to the UK. And the truth is, by the end of the year, it was a lot. But that was a role that is a rolling board. It was a role that I had that year, and then it ends, and then somebody, the vice chair, took it. Peter Haffinger has a role this year. So I decided, for the first time in, I don't know, more than a decade, 15 years perhaps, not to volunteer to any role like that in any of the societies this year. So I do have one small role, which is the chair for the DISC committee, but that doesn't require that much work. It's not so intensive as it was working for the board of directors. And I chose to do that, and I miss it, to be honest. I miss the extra volunteer part, but I needed it. I needed to take the break to fully move into it was a move of countries, and it was a lot of different things. So I decided to prioritize that, and I'm happy I did it. And then it also allows me to explore other opportunities and see what else is there that I can do, and have the time to consider it and think about it. But yeah, I mean, at times it's not so easy, but it has worked out so far. So, and I don't think women or anyone needs to choose between one or like a life or career. I think we can get it all if we want to. And there's better countries, to be honest, to live. If I don't have kids, and I'd never plan to, but if you want to have kids, think about that as well. There's better countries, like Scandinavian countries will give you 1 year maternity leave, well shared with your partner, paid 100%. So there's certain places where you will have better opportunities, and your job will be secured. That's another thing. Uh, and the world is changing in the direction, but that's something that if I were to advise a young woman where to go, is not look into the whole picture. Work-life balance as well. Different countries have a different work-life balance, from commuting time to actual time that people is expected to be at the office. Most countries work more or less the same amount of time in our industry, give and take. But in some countries, it's better seen if you are longer hours, so you take longer breaks and longer lunch, because you cannot just work forever. And in other countries, that's not seen as positive, because your work-life balance is much more important. So you see that everybody has very short breaks and very short coffee or lunch, because they are prioritizing their time at home, and some connect later on at home to finalize things, etc. So there's different ways of balancing things. Look for that as well when you're taking decisions of where to go and what to do.
Thank you, Adriana. Thank you so much for sharing that. Right? Yeah, you have to really evaluate your options. If you really want to have a family, consider some countries. Do the math, and then I think it's really also important. We didn't mention the fact that it's good to have a supportive partner. Adriana,
Padme?
I mean the supportive partner also.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and friends and family. I mean, you rely on so many people, right?
Yes.
So yeah, of course. But you
Yeah.
also have to support it, because it's not about one or the other. Again, those times in which one person was the person that supported the other are okay, but they are not really where we are in these days. We can both share responsibilities, right? I mean, if you
Thank you, Adriana.
if you want that, I mean,
So
you have that.
yes, um, uh, you've lived in Mexico, Norway, UK. I don't know if you've lived in US also. How was your experience living in those countries as a Mexican woman? How did you implement your career? Did you like it?
Oh,
Are
I
you
love anywhere I live. It has always been a choice. It has never been imposed on me. Even now that I move within the same company from Norway to the UK, or my previous company, Nepinor, I moved from Trondheim to Oslo. It has never been an imposition. It has been something that I had wanted, or it has been discussed, and it has been presented as an opportunity. But it has never been the only opportunity. I have always had the choice to not do it. I have been quite fortunate in that sense. Uh, so every career move and every country move has been my choice. And living in other countries is just an expansive experience. I really enjoy getting to know people from different nationalities, with different backgrounds, with different religions, different tastes, different abilities, and I think it just enriches my life. And I have friends all over the world because we move, and it's not only me; other people also move, and we end up seeing each other again in conferences, when we visit, when we return to the country, different situations like that. So I think for me, it's an enriching experience, and I wear my Mexican hat very high. If you get to know me, you realize that I'm definitely a Mexican person, and I love my country and my history, and and that will never change. But for me, the best place to live is the place where I am living at the moment. And the best place to live was Oslo when I was there, and it was Toronto, and it was London before, and it was the US, and it was Mexico. So if it's a choice and you truly enjoy it, and for that to be true, I need to enjoy my work, in my case at least, because we spend so much time at work. And if you think about how many hours you spend at work per week, and how many hours you spend thinking about it and reading emails and talking with people and even having dinner with friends that are sometimes talking about work, you really need to enjoy it. It has to be something that you are passionate about, because otherwise, at least I wouldn't enjoy life. I have to enjoy the whole thing. I have to be into what I'm doing. So if one part of my life doesn't work, then I will figure out how to change it and improve it in any part of my life.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Adriana. I think it's really very important to be passionate about whatever it is you are doing. So you'll be able to scale through any challenge. You'll be able to share yourself, motivate yourself, and all that. So, we know you are very, very involved and active in a lot of volunteering and leadership roles. I think you've talked about this before, but do you think volunteering changed or improved your career? If yes, how so?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely, in so many ways. So my first volunteering in this industry was at the research committee, at the SEG research committee. My advisor, Arthur Wegland, nominated me right after I graduated, and I was rejected, and that's fine. I mean, in that time they didn't have younger people, and they have students. And then a year later, I was presenting a paper, and they 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 still had the memory of that nomination, and it was Chris Krohn and also Kurt Strack. They were the lead. One was the president, and one was the next president. They asked me to join, and I went to the meetings, and I learned a lot from listening to others, and volunteered to help with one of the workshops. And I also had opinions, which was probably a good thing. And over the years, it has been a fantastic experience, not only because I've been able to learn a lot just from the conversations, from running workshops with other people, sharing what I'm working on, what they're working on, how our companies are implementing something, and then going into the workshop, executing it, and having a good discussion, reading all the information that the different volunteers or the people could submit papers or decide to contribute, provide, right? That's on the technical level. But a lot of other opportunities have opened. Most of the opportunities I have had, for example, at SEG, opened because people who met me there suggested me for other roles, and they had no real reason except for perhaps seeing something in me that might be worth developing, because we were not even working in the same company, and sometimes we didn't even meet except for conferences and some of these meetings, right? But they supported me, and that's also why I always work to support the other people. And one of the most interesting experiences came when I was asked to help founding and chairing the SEG Europe Regional Advisory Committee, which I ran, or I was the chair for about 4 years, 5 years, something like that. And it was about building it and everything. And I didn't know who nominated me. I ended up accepting, and my company in that time, Equinor, supported it as well, giving me a little bit of time to work on it. And then I learned it was Kurt Strack who nominated. I'm very grateful, because not only he nominated me by saying that she can run this, and in that moment it was a little beyond my skills. I had to develop the skills while I was there. But he actually sat on the committee. He served on that committee as well, and he's still serving on the committee and supporting the new chair and the current leadership. But he was there, and he asked tough questions, but he supported, and he was. I didn't even know he was the person who nominated me, and that was a very interesting committee, because it is not only about technology. It's about the needs from the geophysics side from Europe. What are the needs of Europe on from geophysics, and how can you link those needs to the SEG? And sometimes we actually had discussions about when ISIS or the Syrian people that were refugees, we had questions, and we actually tried to find ways to help people who had geoscience degrees and could not demonstrate that, but because they were refugees and they lost all the paperwork. And we had done I'm still contributing. I'm not running it, but it became a stronger, and I learned so much in the process. As I said, I was not ready for that role when they gave it to me, but challenges are always welcome. And for me, challenges is just an opportunity to step up, to learn from others, and to just sharpen my skills. Sometimes the first meeting I felt I didn't run it well. I got a lot of help from Lori Weitzel and from Kurt, I remember. And it just made me prepare more for the next meeting, until at some moment you're super comfortable with it. And that has helped me a lot in my career as well, because that's more or less at the same intersection in my career, where I was moving more into the business side and strategy side, still very technical, but having to speak at a different language, different level, with different perspectives, having to step outside from the technology and look a little bit more into the whole market and what was happening. So it really helped. Volunteering helps, especially if you can combine it and learn from it, and you can combine it with your other goals.
Thank you so much, Adriana. Yes, I know. I really love to volunteer also, because
Excellent.
for me, I'm not this outspoken person. I'm much of an introvert. So I just found myself being the president of the SEG chapter of my school, and now I'm with the SEG Women Network. But I'm really passionate about geophysics, and I know that at some point I'm still going to be doing these things, and I better just start doing those things that's going to sharpen my communication skills, help me get the networking, be in different roles, because I can't shy away from that. At the end of the day, it's something I'm going to be doing, and this volunteering thing has really helped me a lot, and I will recommend it to anybody. Everybody, try to find something to work or something you are passionate about, and get involved. Yeah, so get active. So thank you so much, Adriana,
Well,
for
thank you.
sharing that with
You're
us.
also doing a very good work. I mean,
Thank
it shows definitely.
thank you. So I also read that you during your graduate studies you had a lot of internships. So how were you able to secure those internships as a Mexican or as an international student studying abroad?
It didn't really matter the international parts. I mean, I was in MOSRP with Arthur Wegland. We had 23 sponsors. I was fortunate to have been accepted by him. He was the professor for all of us, and we had to give presentations every year. So that's an opportunity to advertise yourself. As I said before, anytime you present something, anytime you present your ideas, you're actually selling something, and you're selling your ideas, but you're also selling yourself. So communication skills are critical, and having something to say, something relevant to say. So I started working 2004 with him, and I didn't have anything to present that year, but I was there. And then a lot of companies came to the University of Houston to interview for students, and I got two interviews. One was with Shell, and one was with BP. And 6 months before that, I was not only, but I was a physics student, and I didn't have any knowledge of seismic or geophysics or anything in this world of the energy industry. So my interview with BP didn't go well, because they actually showed me some data, land data. Now I know it's land data. And they asked me a couple of questions. There were some things I could answer because I was starting to learn these things, but I didn't really. If they had shown me questions, it would have been easier, but no. And they rejected me, and that was the right thing to do. And Shell, I got fortunate because the person who interviewed me was a rock physicist, and he started by telling me what he did, and I had just been working with characterization of bones in my master's, which is, we're looking at fractures as well. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I was able to connect it to what I had done before, and to explain with my background in optics what I was doing now with Arthur Wegland and these other equations for seismic exploration. And he offered me an internship, and I was super fortunate to work with King Tan, and I met a lot of people there. And then Statoil in that time gave me another internship just right away. That was I actually applied. I there was no they didn't have internships, but I wrote an email, and my advisor supported, because by then I had delivered to my advisor my first work that was worthy of a paper from his perspective, and we were writing a paper. So he said that, and then it was Lasse Amundsen who was on the receiving side, and he respected my advice probably much more than me. So I was given that opportunity. I work with Kjetil Hogstad, and is one of the most interesting persons and smarter persons I ever worked with. Well, all of them, to be honest. And then once that you have two internships in one summer, you become popular, because that's what happens when you get an offer from a company. Other companies also look at you, even if they were not interested before, or if they were, somebody already said you have certain value, and that increases your value. And by then I was presenting as well at the consortium. So then I got 3 internships that second year. I didn't apply for them, but I think I worked for them, because in each one of the other internships, I got something that was publishable in something different from my thesis. That ended up being part of my thesis. But it was great times in the industry. It was before the downturn in 2008. This is 2005, 2006, 2007. High prices in oil. Everybody was hiring. It was really fantastic times in the industry. So there is work, but I was also fortunate, and I was very fortunate that all these companies used to send their best people, their chief researchers, their key scientists, to follow our work with Arthur Wegland. So it was really his reputation as well that gave us those opportunities. He really opened a lot of opportunities just by being by having that consortium, and yeah, working with us. But times are different. But apply for internship. You can always apply. And as I did with Statoil that time, if there are no internships, you can always try to send an email if you have the right contact, and preferably someone that can support your application, someone that is recognized by the other side. But if you cannot find an internship for whatever reason, because I understand the industry has been shrinking. I mean, there's a lot of situations in the market, the pandemic, the situations that we have had this year, the 14th war, etc. So times have changed, I understand. And perhaps the opportunities are not the same. So if you don't find an opportunity for an internship, always consider volunteering. There's plenty of professional societies and groups that are almost begging for good volunteers, active volunteers, and you will get an experience as well there.
Thank you so much, Adriana, for sharing that with us. Um, you know, for a woman like you to have achieved so much like this, you must have some success habits.
I'm not
So
sure.
tell us, what are some of your success habits? Like, what do you do? Like, what do you, I don't know, your success habits. What you do to achieve these things that you've achieved? Yes.
I don't know. Just work well with others and I truly like what you do. I mean, there's a lot of moments in which I cannot say that I truly like exactly what I'm doing in that moment. But in the overall picture, I really like what I do. As you said, I mean, you're passionate about seismic, about geophysics, about machine learning. Just follow your passions. I mean, do something that at least in the big picture, in the grand scheme, you would do even if they didn't pay you. I mean, I paint whether I sell my paintings or not. I paint. I mean, they unfortunately they sell, or but it doesn't really matter because I do it because I want to do it because it's something that I feel I need to do. And sometimes I have thought like maybe I should, if I had a lot of money, I would just paint and not look into science and this industry that is so fascinating, or the energy and the changes and the path forward to net zero and all that. And I don't think I'm true to myself. I think that even if I choose to go into art, I will still be following this and I will still be interested in new developments because I am that person. I truly enjoy this and I truly enjoy having a good technical discussion or big picture discussion, all kinds of these discussions. So enjoy what you do. I think that's the key thing. Truly enjoy it. And if you are not enjoying it, find something that you're passionate about. Not everything's gonna be beautiful and nice and fun. There's always things that you have to do and challenges. But if in the big picture you're really passionate about the area that you are working in or about the future of that area, that field, then you're on the right track.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Adriana. So, what advice would you give someone who would like to succeed in geophysics today?
Well, I would think that I already said what my advice would tell you. You can be as smart as you are, but make sure that your integrity and your reputation are there always, and make sure that you maintain that. But I would think as an extra thing to say is that ideas are only as good as your ability to communicate them. So communication, and that's very important, especially for international people. It's not our first language. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. And we work with a lot of people with different language skills, with different native languages, different backgrounds, etc. Learn to communicate. Learn to communicate a lot across any silo, across any boundary, and then your ideas become much more powerful because you have the ability to communicate, whether it's a technical idea, a research idea, or a strategic idea, or just a fun idea of what to do in the afternoon. You need to have good ability to communicate them, and then they become much more powerful. And respect others. Remember that part as well. We talked about that story.
Thank you so much, Adriana, for sharing that with us. Would you like to share any other thing with us? Something I did not touch on that you like us to know?
Oh, no, I mean, I think I overshared already. So. No. I mean, I just want to say thank you. I mean, thank you very much. It was a bit scary, this ask me anything thing, but I'm very glad I accepted, and thank you for all the work that you and your team at the SEG Women Network is doing. I mean, you are doing a great job. You're very young and you're very passionate. Just keep that going, and seek help anytime you need it. But make sure to also mentor other people, and you will be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adriana. It has been a very interesting session. I'd like to say thank you so much, and such an honor to have you. I know you have a lot of busy things to do, like you have a very busy schedule, but you took your time to join us today, and it means a lot to us. Thank you so much for joining us and
It was my
answering all the
pleasure.
questions.
And I hope to meet you in person soon at the next
Yes, I hope to meet you in person.
conference.
Thank you so much, Adriana.
Bye bye.
All right, bye.